Hey, what is going on, guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down the new Season 10 changes that Riot has just released recently. We're going to be talking about the impact of the changes, the hidden or indirect buffs that certain champions will receive with the changes. So with that being said, let's get started. So one of the major changes to Season 10 is going to be how dragons work. So the first two dragons you take are going to act exactly the same as to how they would in Season 9. So you're just going to get bonus stats for those dragons you do take. The third dragon that now spawns though is going to transform the map. So whether it be an infernal, an ocean, a mountain, or a cloud, each one of the dragons is going to transform the map in a different way, and it's going to add for a lot more unique gameplay when that third dragon does spawn. So some games actually this might not even come into effect at all. Transforming the map might not even be a thing in some games, but most games, once you do hit the mid to late game at least, you will see a transformation in the map. And another really interesting thing is that the third dragon that does spawn and transform the map, that's going to be the only dragon that can spawn for the remainder of the game. Alright, so if we run down all four of the dragons and what the changes will mean, first up for Infernal, you're still going to get the exact same stats for taking it, so you're going to get a % bonus of AD and AP. The change or the transformation of Infernal that it's going to do to the map is it's going to open up the map a little bit more, it's going to create new pathways, as you can see there in that screenshot. At the red buff there, it just opens up 3 different pathways, and it also does destroy brush. So if we take a look at some indirect like nerfs to champions, I guess Rengar would be an indirect nerf with the Infernal transform. Kiana would be an indirect nerf a little bit. Gnar as well. Bard, Vayne, like any champions that do rely on walls in order for them to hit certain abilities, they would be nerfed by these changes. Now for Ocean, you are still going to get the same stats, so bonus mana and health regeneration. The transformation Ocean's going to provide is it's going to spawn extra brush around the map. So the most obvious buffs to this would be Rengar. Some more, I guess, hidden buffs would be pick compositions would be really good with this. So Fiddlesticks would get a really nice buff with this. Just having more brush around the map allows him to just find more places to be able to use his ultimate. Assassins would also be buffed by this because there's just more brush. There's more bushes for the enemies to have to face check into. So if your team gets ahead and you're able to get really good vision control in the enemy's jungle, and you can just sit in all these extra bushes that the enemies will have to face check into, I just feel like if you get ahead and this is the dragon to spawn as the third one, you're gonna have a much easier time closing out games. Now for Cloud Dragon, the buff that you get from it is actually going to change now. So you're no longer going to be getting the movement speed from it. You're going to gain cooldown reduction on your ultimate. So any champions with really high value ultimate abilities, say like a Kennen, a Rumble, a Fiddlesticks, would really get buffed by this change to Cloud in Season 10. Now the transformation Cloud's going to provide is it's now going to put these pockets of like speed buff areas on the map to where when you run over them, you're now going to gain like bonus movement speed from it. So a couple of buffs from that would be any champions that do gain some sort of stats from bonus movement speed. So your Hecarim would get buffed by this change. Singe, Skarner, Celerity would get buffed as well. Hard engage compositions would get buffed. So a lot of different buffs with this Cloud Dragon change here for Season 10, and definitely a pretty interesting one. I do like the fact that it no longer gives you the movement speed as the bonus stat. I do like the fact that it now does reduce your ultimate's cooldown. And then lastly, for the final dragon, for Mountain Dragon, the stats that you get from it are also going to be changing. So you no longer gain the bonus damage to objectives. You're now going to gain a percentage increase of armor and magic resist. So this is going to make tanks a little bit stronger here for Season 10. It's also going to make assassins like a little bit weaker. Imagine you playing an assassin, you fall behind in the early game, and the enemy team spawns like 2 mountain drakes or something, and the enemy AD carry just gets a bunch of free armor and free magic resistance. It's going to be much more difficult for you to assassinate those high priority targets in fights. Obviously this isn't going to happen every single game, so it's not going to be that big of a deal, but in the games that it does happen, it is going to be a small nerf to assassins. And then for the mountain transformation, it's going to spawn extra boulders around the map, or extra terrain. So as you can see there, Inferno Dragon spawns an extra boulder. Also over by the red buff there, it's going to spawn another boulder. So this is going to make champions, any champions who benefit from extra terrain like Kiana, Gnar, Bard, Anivia, Vayne, those champions are gonna get stronger with these changes, and really any like AoE damage compositions or champions that do really thrive in tight quarters. So for example, like a Nivea would be really good in that area there, to where that boulder spawns over by the red buff. Imagine like an Nivea ultimate in there followed up by her Q, or like a Rumble ultimate in that tight quarter. So any tight quarter champions or champions who thrive in those tight quarters will be buffed by this change. Now they're adding in a new dragon buff before the Elder Dragon. It's going to be called a Dragon Soul. So when a team kills their 4th elemental drake, instead of getting like the elemental buff, they're now going to gain a Dragon Soul, and this is going to be different for each of the different dragons. So for an Infernal Dragon, the soul every 3 seconds, your next attack or damaging spell creates a small AoE explosion. For Ocean, you're going to gain more regeneration, it looks like. For Cloud, you're now going to be getting like a Spear of Sojin basically on every one of your teammates, but you don't even have to like use your ultimate in order to activate it. It just says hitting enemies with abilities or attacks lowers the cooldowns of your base abilities. So that would be really insane, especially on split pushing champions once you do reach the later stages of the game. And then Mountain Dragon, you're gonna gain like a shield from it. So I do really like them adding in this like other kind of perk for getting a dragon before the Elder does spawn. I feel like this is going to just speed up games a little bit more and allow the team who does get ahead to get these bonus stats and end games a little bit quicker. And then for the Elder Dragon buff, it's no longer going to scale off of how many dragons you do have prior to taking Elder. So if you got 0 dragons, or if you got 4 dragons prior to taking Elder, it's not going to matter at all. So this does mean that teams who are behind are still going to have a really good chance to come back if they get the Elder, and teams who are very far ahead don't just get, I guess, a free win once they do end up picking up Elder. So you're still going to get the burn damage from it, but you're now going to get this execute on the burn damage. So if the burn damage ends up dropping an enemy to a certain amount of HP, it's just going to execute them instantly. So with all these changes to the dragon for season 10, I do think it should be a lot more highly prioritized for this coming season. And I think that the dragons right now that aren't very prioritized, like the Cloud and the Mountain, I feel like those ones will be more prioritized in season 10. Any champion who does have really good objective control, or who can take dragons solo very quickly in the early game, should get buffed by these changes. So Shyvana, Warwick, Nunu, those are 3 champions in mind that should get a little bit stronger here for season 10. Now moving on to some permanent environmental changes. In top lane and in bot lane, they're adding in these new indents in the lanes called alcoves, and these are going to be extra little areas that you can look to play around. At first glance, these changes kind of seem pointless. Like, why would you even go in there in the first place? There's nothing there, so it doesn't really seem like there's much point of them. But when actually thinking about it a little bit more, there's certain strategies and there's also certain champions that would be affected by these changes. So 2 champions I can think of that would get hurt by these changes would be both Vayne and Bard. So you're removing the wall to the lane there, which removes the ability for these champions to look for picks. Like the Bard stun, gonna be much more difficult to land. The Vayne condemn, also more difficult to land. So small indirect nerfs to those 2 champions. Now, lane ganks might become extremely potent here for season 10 with these alcoves, because what you could do is you can come in, sneak in behind the bush, behind your teammates, go in behind the alcove there, wait in behind the alcove until the enemy team ends up pushing out more in lane, and then you just end up sneaking directly behind them, coming from behind, and that could just be an insanely strong gank, especially depending on which champion you're playing. So I do think that if this does stay for season 10, you're going to have to change your warding patterns during the laning phase if you're playing top or you're playing bot lane. And if you don't, then the potential for these like lane ganks and the potential for these alcove ganks to be very potent is definitely something that we will have to watch out for. Now, 2 new permanent bushes are also going to be added onto the map, one on the red side, one on the blue side, and both of them are going to be near the blue buff. So this does mean that pretty much any champion I talked about that would get better with the Ocean Drake transformation would also benefit from this change. So obvious Rengar buff here, Fiddlesticks, really any assassin, any pick composition would get better with these changes. Now for jungle pathing in season 10, you're going to be able to hit level 3 off of any 3 camps in the game, it looks like. So they're no longer going to have the Krugs being the highest value camp in the game. Right now, the only way you can get level 3 off of 3 camps is if you do red, raptors, and Krugs. So they're now going to allow you to get level 3 off of, say, doing like red, raptors, and Gromp. So it just does add to the diversity of jungle pathing for season 10, which I do think is a really good change. Now for top lane and mid lane, it looks like they'll be getting a little bit stronger for season 10. How much stronger is yet to be determined, because all that they're telling us so far is that they're going to be increasing base minion XP slightly for solo laners so they level a bit faster, and reducing the amount of bonus XP generated when allies share XP. So bot lane for AD carry for support will be getting a little bit weaker. For jungle as well, they're going to be slightly decreasing jungle XP. So I don't think we can really look into these changes too much yet. Like if they just increase XP by like such a small amount, it's probably not going to matter too much. So it's just going to all come down to the numbers here with these changes. So for support items for season 10, you're no longer going to have to upgrade your starter items. So you just buy your one support item and it's going to upgrade itself when you do complete the quest. So this is a pretty nice change. It does mean that you're now going to be able to get your core items a little bit faster. So certain core items that are very strong, like a Zeke's Rush, very strong on certain support champions like a Nautilus or a Blitz, so they hit a bit of an earlier spike. An Ardent or an Athene's Rush on certain supports is going to be really strong. So I don't really think it makes like one champion stronger down in the support role overall. I just think it kind of buffs like pretty much all supports for season 10. And then for lethality items, two of the bigger changes here. Edge of Night is now gonna just act exactly like Banshee's Veil, or at least the active on it is. It's no longer gonna be an active, it's just gonna be a passive spell shield. So I feel like this is a bit controversial of a change. I know that some people will like this change, some people won't really like it. Sanguine Blade is gonna be a new lethality item, and it's going to give you a huge amount of attack speed when no allies are nearby. So imagine this item on somebody like Nocturne, picking somebody off in a side lane, Rengar, like really any assassin I feel like would just be busted with this item. So we will have to wait and see the stats on this item. We don't have any information yet, I don't think, as to what stats it's going to give, but if this item does end up having decent stats on it and the attack speed you get from it is really good, then I could see this being a go-to item on pretty much any assassin. So Spear of Sojin is getting completely removed from the game, and thank God. This item was just way too busted on the champions that were good with the item. So Jax, Renekton, Riven will be getting indirectly weaker with the removal of this item. I think they will actually get substantially weaker, so we'll have to see what Riot does to maybe compensate them with a buff or something, but do expect those three champions to get a bit weaker for season 10. And then lastly, to round it out, some Keystone Rune changes. Conquer is having its true damage removed, and they're putting more power into the stacking adaptive force. So in season 9, we really didn't see tanks a ton. I know in previous seasons, a lot of people complained about tanks being very annoying and being played a lot in the top lane, but because of Conquer, we really didn't see them being played a lot at all in season 9. So I think that with this change, it is going to make tanks stronger for season 10. It's going to make bruisers a little bit weaker into those tank champions, and I do think that this is going to look more and more like the old Fervor of Battle Mastery. So champions that would take the old Fervor, or that were really good with it, I guess champions like Yasuo, AD carries might look to take this rune more now. So I do think it's going to open up more opportunities for other champions to take the rune, but it also does mean at the same time that other champions like bruisers should get a bit weaker with it. For Kleptomancy, you're now going to be getting less gold from it, but you're going to be getting more elixir drops. I think overall this should be a nerf to most champions who take it right now. On Ezreal, it's just such a good item at generating gold, accelerating you into your mid-game spike, that if you're getting less gold from it, I just don't see it being very good on him anymore. So it would be a nerf to Ezreal in my mind. Also a nerf to Kennen, Gangplank kind of. He can run Grasp right now as well, but those three champions would get affected, I'd say, the most by these Klepto changes. And then lastly, to round it all out here, for Aftershock, they're going to be reducing the effectiveness of it on squishy champions and increasing the effectiveness of it on tank champions. What this means is that tanks are going to be getting a lot stronger for season 10 with the removal of true damage on Conquer, and with these Aftershock changes, look out for tanks for season 10. Squishy champions right now that are running Aftershock that would be getting weaker include the likes of Galio. I guess you got Fiddlesticks down in the bot lane right now, pretty good with the Aftershock. Lux support, Pike support as well. I think those are the main squishy champions that are running it right now that would be getting weaker. So that is going to be all for the video, guys. That's all the information that Riot has given us so far as to the season 10 changes. If you guys did enjoy the video, if you found it useful, be sure to drop a like. If you're not subscribed yet, be sure to be subscribed to stay up to date with all the changes, all the meta shifting changes heading into season 10. So with that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.